18 rules to automate cold emails and score big contracts. Key learnings from this lecture: how I secured a meeting with the CEO of a $30 million business off just one cold email template with zero follow ups, how to achieve open rates over 50% consistently, how to generate $1.2 million in sales in just 6 months, and some real world examples of successful cold emails that I personally wrote. Rule number one, and this is the most common single mistake that I always see with cold emails: ask for a reply, not a meeting. So, what most people do when they write cold emails is they're trying to shove a meeting in front of someone's face. Here's an example of one I received. Here is a link to my calendar. Feel free to book a time slot that works for you. Another one that I received from Salesforce: what time works for 10 minutes today? The problem here is that you're trying to get a meeting with someone, even though you're a complete stranger. It's way too aggressive. And we know it's too aggressive because we have research from Gong showing what works and what doesn't. So, for example, they tested emails that had a specific call to action. So that would be like, what time works for 10 minutes today? They tested another one with an open ended CTA, which would be like, book time on my calendar. And then they tested a third call to action, which was just asking for interest. And you can see that asking for interest, way more effective than pushing aggressively for a meeting. An example of this is a very short cold email that I sent. You can see it right here. It's an automated one. And at the very end, I said, are there any marketing challenges you'd like to get advice on? Basically, I'm just asking for interest. I'm trying to get a reply, not a meeting. Here's another example where someone cold emailed me. Let me know if you would like more details. Very, very effective. Rule number two, show your credibility. So what I did was I went to Google, I did a search for SaaS company list, and I simply bought a list of SaaS companies. I imported that list into a cold email tool called Lemlist, and then I prepared this email. The most important thing here with the copywriting is that I am establishing credibility. I said I'm a SaaS marketer with 10 years experience, ranging from Google-backed startups to the Fortune 100. I also mentioned that I'm the author of this book. I call out that I have an MBA from the top marketing school, Kellogg. So establishing credibility is one of the most important things you need to do with your cold emails. And you can see that this was particularly effective. I received this response almost immediately. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Admin and I will set up a meeting between you and the people copied here. And basically, I got a meeting with a company that had $30 million in venture capital off a very basic cold email from a purchase list. Very easy. All right. Another key mistake that people make is they try to use generic email tools for cold emails. They use MailChimp, for example, or Marketo. Do not do that. You must use a tool that is specifically designed for cold emails. Here are a few that I used: Lemlist, Mailshake, Outreach. Now, the one that I use most commonly is Lemlist, but you find the one that works for you. Basically, your deliverability is going to be terrible. You're going to be breaking the terms of service unless you use a proper cold email tool. Now, a little bit about who I am. I am Decker, the marketer. I was a global brand manager for Sony. I was a vice president of marketing for Google Accelerator Startup. I have over 800,000 enrollments on udemy.com. I also taught college level digital marketing, and I have my MBA from Philip Kotler's Kellogg School of Management. You want to listen to people that really know what they're talking about. And one person that I really respect is Jason Lemkin. Now, Jason's saying that by sending emails, these cold emails, you can get seen by the CEO of even $100 billion company. But the key here is, don't try to push them into a virtual coffee chat. Don't try to ask for 5 minutes of their time. Just focus on solving a problem that they have, because most CEOs do not have 15 minutes to get on the phone, which, again, asking for that meeting, just way too aggressive. Another key thing is you want to focus on what's in it for them, not for you. In other words, what do they get out of replying to you? I'm bombarded with cold emails every week, but there are a few that are actually effective. Here's one of the most effective ones that I've ever received. Bullet point: receive a creator bonus of $500 for your early bird support per course. Receive monthly revenue. They handle the migration progress. process. Extend your current assets into a new market and keep 100% of the IP. And there's nothing that's more in it for them as pure money. If you are guaranteeing them money, make that the frontmost thing. And often people are successful by simply paying people to attend a meeting because it's showing you respect their time. You're going to reimburse them for their time. I ran a test years ago when I was trying to do research for this clinic. And one email focused on giving them a Starbucks gift card for their feedback, and the other was just a request for help. And you can guess which one outperformed. It was the one where we're offering the $25 Starbucks gift card because it focused on what's in it for them, very little about what's in it for the company. Another successful approach is to email influencers. I use this tool called SparkToro. It's a great way of finding who the top influencers are in any category. And here's an example of an email that I sent to the top influencer in this particular industry. Now, you'll notice that it looks a little bit glitchy because of all these slashes. That's because this cold email wasn't sent through an actual email program. It was sent through the contact form on a website. So when it shows up in the email program, it looks a little bit wonky. So here's what the copy looked like. Hi, I'd like to give you a perpetually free account to use this program. Please let me know if you're interested, and I'll set you up with a temporary password. Thank you, smiley face. Very short, very simple, but this was effective. This was able to get a partnership with the number one influencer in our space. Another cool trick is to combine cold email with direct mail. So there's this case of Psy that generated $1.2 million in annual recurring revenue in just 6 months using primarily cold emails and direct mail. So they were able to get $1.2 million in sales off just $268,000 in marketing spend. This case study is from SaaS MQL. Now, the key here is to make sure your direct mail gets noticed, and that means sending a large 3D box sandwiched in between the cold emails that you send. Another trick is to send at least one follow up. So here's a very short example of a cold email campaign I sent. Not huge statistical significance here, but I'm just hammering home the point that just adding one follow-up email could increase your reply rate from 16% to 20%. Here's an example of what I did here. So I'm here in Lemlist where I created an automated sequence. I said, hi, first name. I'm giving away 100 licenses to CVPMs to use this program for free for 6 months. If you're interested, please let me know and I'll set up your account. Very simple cold email. And then I sent a follow-up email 5 days later. You can see I have a 5-day delay here. Hey, first name. I was just wondering if you were interested. I'm setting up CVMPs with a free 6-month licenses. Just let me know. So you notice I'm not saying, hey, just following up on my previous email. I'm actually summarizing and repeating what I said in the first email so that the follow-up actually adds value instead of just being an annoying attempt at trying to get them to reply. Here's another demonstration of why it's important to send at least one follow-up. This is a quote from one of the top direct response marketers in history, Dan Kennedy. He says, the creation of sales letter sequences, rather than just creating sales letters, is as responsible as any other single idea for my becoming a millionaire while still young enough to enjoy it, and for making millions and millions of dollars for my personal clients. So what he's saying is that you basically can double your response rate by just adding a second and third letter. And I would say the same thing. If you add a second and third email, you can increase your response rate. Bob Bly even shows studies. Bob Bly is a famous copywriter where simply sending the exact same email a second time could significantly improve the performance of your campaign. So not even changing the email whatsoever. Company that's been doing this super aggressively towards me is Apple. Apple's been bombarding me with follow-up emails trying to get me to set up for their credit card, and who knows, maybe I just might at some point. Another key thing to consider when you're writing these cold emails is explain why they're special. Why are you writing them specifically and not just doing a broadcast spam? So we can call out, for example, their designation. So here I said CVPM. Now, it doesn't matter what that means. It could be MD, it could be veterinarian, it could be any designation that sort of says, hey, this is for me, not just for everybody. Here's another example. Now, I may have sent this through social media, but the same principles apply when you're DMing people versus sending cold emails. Hi, I found you while researching the more influential YouTubers regarding Shopify. I'd like to offer you a perpetually free account. So basically, I'm saying this is special to you because not only are you a YouTuber, but you're a YouTuber who specializes in Shopify. So you should pay attention to this message. Here's another example. Hi, I've seen you around a lot of places, including Facebook, YouTube, and Referral Candy. You seem to be a pretty important VIP in the e commerce world, and I'd like to pay you for your input on our app. So I'm calling out uh, not just flattery here, but specifics about what their niche is. That's going to help get response rates much higher. Okay, another key thing is a lot of people obsess over subject lines and they do a lot of A/B testing when it comes to subject lines. And subject lines are important, but I think they're overvalued because really subject lines aren't the biggest driver of open rates, in my opinion. It's other factors that determine deliverability. And you can get this entire email deliverability checklist from the Lemlist website. So, things that are going to enhance your deliverability, for example, are going to be the quality of the list that you have. Later, I'm going to demonstrate how you can clean your list and whether you're using an actual program designed for cold emails. Now, to mitigate your risks, one thing that I suggest is that you do not use your primary domain. The reason is that it could be risky if your main domain, if your main website is going to get blacklisted. So you can go to a place like Squarespace Domains and you can go and purchase a new domain that can be the one you specifically use for sending cold emails. So, for example, if I own Decker.com and that's my main website, I'm going to send my cold emails from Decker.page. So the reason I'm calling out Squarespace here is because they've purchased Google domains, and that just seems like a pretty easy choice to go to. Another good tip here, and this comes from A Guide to Cold Emailing from Harvard Business Review by Tucker Max. Be appreciative and a little bit vulnerable. I would even go so far as to say you should be slightly submissive. So you don't want to seem like this overly dominant person that's forcing people to reply to you, forcing them to get a meeting with you. Saying things like "thank you so much" with an exclamation point could double your response rate. Say things like, I would really appreciate if you wouldn't mind, if it doesn't take too much time, if you could just give me some thoughts on this. If you could say something like, I'm a student, or I'm just doing some research, or I really don't know what I'm doing, making yourself seem almost slightly pathetic so that they're helping you. Now, don't lie at all, just be very appreciative, be very polite, and demonstrate that you really value their time. Another key to success with cold emails is really just getting a good list. I've had some really bad experiences with lists that just didn't work out at all. Even with referrals from highly successful direct marketers, it just didn't pan out. So, here are some recommendations I have from experience. You can use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a paid service, to compile a list of the targets that you want to go after. And then what you can do is extract the emails from LinkedIn Sales Navigator using a tool such as scrap.io. And then you can build your list that way. You can also build a list manually or hire somebody on Upwork or Fiverr by scraping association websites. So a lot of people have their emails publicly listed through like real estate associations or certain medical associations. Just go grab the emails from there, and then you know they're probably going to be pretty credible. I would say in general, if you're going to just purchase a list outright, get it from a specialized list seller. So, for example, if you want a list of e-commerce companies, do a Google search for e-commerce company email list and find the companies that specialize in that industry. Going to generic list brokers, from my personal experience, has not been the best. The specialists are where it's at, and you only find the specialists by doing Google searches. So it's pretty simple. Now, there's a basic formula we can use as a way to write a cold message to a potential prospect, and it's this. It's a classic copywriting framework that has been slightly modified. So it's problem, agitate, solve, but the more elaborate version is problem, agitate, discredit, solve, and then prove. So by discredit here, I mean discredit alternative solutions to their problem. And then prove is basically just prove that you can actually solve their problem. So here's an example. I'm talking about veterinarians and how they aren't going home early because they're staying up late doing paperwork. So that's the problem. I'm agitating it by saying that could lead to burnout. I'm discrediting doing manual reporting as a solution. I'm presenting dictation as the solution. And then I'm proving that dictation is effective by using research from the Journal of Medical Internet Research, and also proving it by using a quotation, a testimonial from an actual veterinarian. Now, as you start to launch your cold email campaigns, it's going to be important that you measure success appropriately. And often, what people do is they measure campaigns ineffectively. So, they're going to measure it looking at things like clicks, open rates, reply rates, maybe MQLs, SQLs, etc. And it doesn't hurt to track all of these things. The problem is that emails that are most likely to get open aren't necessarily the ones that are most likely to generate sales. I would rather have a lower open rate, a lower click rate for something that get me more large contracts. So that's why you need to go deeper into the funnel to what I would say is the gold standard for measuring the success of cold emails in most cases, and that's SQOs, sales qualified opportunities, which is what you might refer to as pipeline revenue. And what an SQO is, an opportunity, a sales opportunity, is basically a prospect that has a high probability of buying in the next few months, whether that's with you or with a competitor. So that's what I would optimize your emails for. Are you getting meetings with people that are going to be making a purchase fairly soon? Now, I'm going to give you 6 pieces of advice from Gong. So Gong has done a lot of quantitative research on what works and what doesn't with cold emails. And here are some basic takeaways. So number 1, your cold email should be about 30 to 150 words. Number 2, don't talk about ROI. A lot of people talk about ROI, but it's too early in the conversation. It's not really what people want to hear. It's more about the approach that you're taking to increase the ROI, not the ROI itself. Number 3, I've already mentioned this. Don't ask for a meeting. Number 4, don't ask for thoughts. That's a trick that some people use to try to get response. What are your thoughts? Number 5, don't guilt buyers. And number 6, use a nicety. So a lot of kind of small talk, wordy, flowery language in emails that may seem like a distraction, seems like a waste of time. It's actually quantitatively proven that people are more likely to respond to that. Which gets to the point earlier from Harvard Business Review where we're talking about being very appreciative and almost slightly submissive. I mentioned earlier that you do not want to use your primary domain when you're doing cold emails. So that means you need to go and purchase a new domain, or maybe you have a secondary domain you already have. But once you have that and you created a new email, you need to warm it up. And cold email programs are going to have an automated way of warming it up where they're going to send emails out at intervals, and they're going to get people to respond to the emails to establish the credibility of your new email. An example here that I use is this Lemwarm, which is available through Lemlist. And I run that for a couple of weeks to warm up a domain. And then I start sending the cold emails. I might start sending maybe 30 a day. The second week, improve that up to 70. And then eventually get up to around 200 emails per day going to my cold email list. Now, lastly, one of the most important things is that you want to make sure you're working with a clean email list, and you can clean that by using a tool like Bouncer here. You can recognize it from this gorilla image, and what they'll do is they'll clean your list to make sure that the bounce rate's not too high, and it'll improve your deliverability dramatically. So, in conclusion, I'm Decker the Marketer, and if you want to learn more, you can check out my marketing courses on udemy.com.